Chapter 4. Diseases that can be cured. Let us now talk a little about specific diseases which can be cured by autosuggestion. I must repeat what I have said in a previous chapter, that it is very difficult to place any limit to the powers of autosuggestion, within the bounds of possibility, of course. For even in cases of maladies described as incurable, I have had occasion to observe such extraordinary improvement effected in a patient's condition that the most extravagant hopes would seem justified. Organic diseases can be influenced. It can be affirmed without hesitation that even organic disorders come within the influence of autosuggestion. I am aware that this contradicts the theory of a number of doctors who perhaps judge the matter rather too hastily, but my affirmation is supported by many other eminent members of the fraternity in France and elsewhere who have found its truth demonstrated by actual facts. Dr. Vachet, professor at the School of Psychotherapeutics at Paris and a distinguished member of the growing corps of physicians who have begun to employ autosuggestion and suggestion as an adjunct to the ordinary resources of medicine, cited recently the case of a young woman cured of ulcers in the stomach by the new method. There was no diagnostic error. X-ray photographs had been taken. A surgical operation had been prescribed. By means of suggestion, unaided by drugs or other treatment, the patient was cured within 2 months. In the first week, the vomiting had ceased. The same practitioner mentions the rapid disappearance of a tumor on the 10th rib, the sufferer being a young girl who was also afflicted with a fissure of the anus. The girl had been ill for 2 years and in bed for 3 months. Her temperature was high and her general condition bad. The power of suggestion cured her in a fortnight, the tumor disappearing completely and the fissure healing without leaving a trace. Showing how symptoms may be cured even when disease itself may not. In the course of my own experience, one of the most remarkable cases which I can call to mind is that of a boy who, if not actually cured of a serious heart affliction, endocarditis, or at least got rid of all the symptoms, and lives and enjoys life as though in perfect health. One day the door of my study was opened and a pale, thin youth entered, leaning heavily on the arm of his father. At every stop he paused, and every breath he took was like the painful gasp of an exhausted animal. Poor little chap. I did not expect to be able to do much for him. However, after his father had explained his malady, I took him in hand, demonstrating the force of autosuggestion by means of a few simple experiments, such as I usually make during my lectures. For instance, I made him clasp his hands tightly, and then showed him that he could not unclasp them while thinking and saying, "I cannot, I cannot." The boy was convinced. He went away full of confidence, promising to recite my formula regularly and to practice conscientiously the principles of autosuggestion. I saw him a few weeks afterward. There was already a considerable change. He could walk better. His breathing was easier, but he was still in a pitiful condition. The lad persevered, however, and he did indeed get better and better every day. And when I heard of him next, he was playing football. He was exempted from military service during the war, for medical examination showed him to still be suffering from his heart trouble, although to all intents and purposes he was a well-grown, muscular young man, which proves that symptoms can always be relieved by autosuggestion, even when the disease itself is incurable. Diabetes. Take diabetes. According to certain modern authorities, this affection may sometimes have its origin in nervous trouble. Generally, of course, it is organic. In any case, I have known it frequently to yield to autosuggestion practiced with perseverance. Recently, a patient succeeded in reducing the amount of sugar from 80 to 59 in less than a month, while several painful symptoms disappeared. Tuberculosis may be helped. Without venturing to declare that tuberculosis can be cured by autosuggestion, I do say that in many cases it can be fought successfully. By the practice of autosuggestion, the resistance of the organism is strengthened, and the patient aids nature's own tendency to react against disease. This is true indeed in all cases of general debility. I know of a lady of 60 who had been ailing for the best part of her life, and who, when she came to me first, believed she was near death. She weighed barely 98 pounds. Autosuggestion transformed her. The idea of health implanted in her subconscious gave her self-confidence unknown to her previously. Her health improved to such an extent that she recovered from an attack of pulmonary congestion, which her doctor believed she could not possibly resist, and she had increased her weight by 26 pounds. Sciatica, gastric troubles, constipation, asthma, and headaches readily helped. Sciatica, gastric troubles, constipation, asthma, headaches readily give way to autosuggestion. There is a man who had suffered from headaches for 30 years, taking aspirin and similar drugs regularly on certain days of the week. Notice the power of suggestion. He was convinced he would have a headache on such and such a day, and he did have one. Now he has set his mind working along other lines, and has cured himself of his chronic headaches. I also know a man who suffered from sciatica and who, according to a letter which he wrote the other day, has had practically no pain since the day he came to hear me explain the practice of autosuggestion. And a young woman who now thinks nothing of walking 8 miles, although by her doctor's orders she had considered herself an invalid for many years, scarcely daring to stir from her bed or her sofa. Wasted tissue may be repaired. Astonishing as these results may appear, they are perfectly logical and natural, since it has been demonstrated that in certain conditions, wasted tissue may be repaired by the exercise of autosuggestion. Women may hold and enhance their beauty, and now here is a word of comfort for my fair readers who are fearful, and how many are not, of losing their good looks. Of course, you are right to want to remain young and fresh and good-looking, and you can do so if you only realize that you possess the secret yourself. It is that little fairy who dwells in your subconscious and who asks nothing better than to smooth away those impertinent wrinkles, to put firm cushions of healthy flesh under sagging cheeks, or restore the laughing sparkle to dulled eyes. Yes, just train your imagination to visualize your face or body as you would like it to be, and you will have a very good chance of seeing them approach pretty near your ideal. Mind, I don't tell you that you can change the color of your eyes or hair or modify the shape of your chin or nose. We must always keep to the materially possible. But you can really improve your appearance and ward off the attacks of age and fatigue. Fatigue, by the way, ought not to be possible if you practice autosuggestion. It is so largely a matter of imagination. Suppose you have a task to perform. If you think to yourself beforehand, this is going to be difficult and tiring. It surely will be so, and you will yawn over it and feel quite tired and bored. But if you are in a different frame of mind and say, this is going to be easy, I shall enjoy doing it, then you will not feel the slightest trace of fatigue. The best way of making a hard job easy is to buckle down and do it. One must observe the ordinary rules of health. It goes without saying that the practice of autosuggestion will not dispense one from the observance of the ordinary rules of health and hygiene. Remember, we are using the forces of nature, so it would be silly to attempt to fight them at the same time. Lead a rational life. Do not overeat. Chew your food thoroughly. Take sufficient exercise. Avoid excesses. They are nature's law. Their observance combined with the knowledge of the all-powerful effects of autosuggestion will keep you in good physical and moral health, and enable you to combat successfully any of the ills to which the human body is heir through tradition and heredity. The doctor is a necessity. Let me add most emphatically that I do not advise you to dispense with a doctor's services. Obviously, there are many cases in which his advice in medicine and care are absolutely indispensable, and always a doctor's presence and prestige and cheering words are helpful to the patient, especially if he also takes advantage of the wonderful instruments at his disposition and accompanies his prescription with the proper suggestions. The results will be attained with much greater rapidity. I want both patients and doctors to understand that autosuggestion is the most formidable weapon against disease. End of chapter.